SpaceX is getting closer to the day when it will be able to make good on its promise of conducting regular missions to orbit, the Moon, and to Mars. At the heart of all this is the progress they are making with their Starship and Super Heavy launch system. In recent weeks, Musk's commercial space company conducted two successful 150 meters, 500 feet, hop tests with the SN5 and SN6 prototypes at the Boca Chica launch facility in southern Texas. Based on the latest announcements to come out of SpaceX, it appears that this recent string of successes has emboldened Musk and his company. Previously, Musk indicated that he was planning on making several more small hop tests and that the SN8 would attempt a 60,000 feet or around 20 kilometers, 12 miles, flight sometime next year. More recent indications, however, suggest that Musk wants to conduct this high-altitude test before the end of October. The launch would be the highest any model of the Starship has ever flown, beating this month's SN6 launch, last month's SN5 launch, and August 2019's Starhopper launch. All these ships flew to a height of around 500 feet, or 150 meters. The flight would also send the ship soaring to nearly double the altitude of regular commercial airplanes, which cruise at a comparatively low height of around 35,000 feet. The feat could pave the way for some of SpaceX's grandest plans. The company is currently developing the ship at its Boca Chica facility in Texas, with the goal of a fully reusable rocket capable of transporting over 150 tons or 100 people into space at a time. The ship could take on satellite launches similar to the Falcon 9, while its liquid oxygen and methane fuel enables passengers to explore Mars and return by refueling with the planet's resources. Musk has previously outlined his goals to build a city on Mars by 2050. On Saturday, Musk explained this next phase of the rocket's development via his Twitter page. In around 1 week, SpaceX expects to complete an SN8 prototype. This new model will sport flaps and a nose cone, looking closer to the final concept images than the simple silo that flew last month. From there, the team plans to hold a static test fire. This is a routine part of SpaceX's launches where the engines are tested before an actual launch. Then there will be checkouts, then another static fire, then the flight itself will be held. One way or another, excitement guaranteed. Musk wrote. Support of Greater Boca, Padre, Brownsville community is very much appreciated. Musk did not provide indications as to when the launch may take place. Eagle-eyed Reddit fans spotted a filing with the Federal Communications Commission published on Friday. The application covers communications that can support medium-altitude hops tests up to a maximum altitude of 20 kilometers. This covers a 6-month period starting from October 11th. While this suggests SpaceX has been laying the groundwork for forthcoming tests, it's not necessarily an indicator of timings. The company filed similar applications in June and February. Following a successful test, SpaceX may turn its attention to the Super Heavy booster. This 28-engine behemoth helps the entire construction reach a height of around 400 feet. Musk claimed earlier this month that the Super Heavy booster has started construction and could complete a launch within 2 months. From there, SpaceX has big goals. The company has announced a trip around the moon with Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa. Musk has also outlined an ambitious timetable to send the first cargo-only ships to Mars by 2022. This would lead to crewed missions by 2024. The 20-kilometer hop has been a long-standing goal of Musk's. In October 2019, Musk explained that if the ship can reach the planned height, the company will then turn its attention directly toward completing an orbital mission. The orbital flight could come as soon as 2021, but as Musk noted earlier this month, the Starship's goal of offering a fully reusable orbital rocket is uncharted territory. Indeed, as Musk previously suggested in September 2019 that the first orbital flight could take place in a matter of months from that date, it perhaps won't be too surprising if SpaceX's timetables shift again as it continues into uncharted territory. But for such a major step forward in the project, the Starship's 20-kilometer launch should also provide an impressive visual display. Improvements to the construction of the vehicles will be tested again during the burst test of the SN7.1 test tank, which, like its SN7 predecessor, will be purposely pushed to destruction. Following rollout on the same day, SN6 was returned to the production site. SN7.1 was first put through a cryo test to check the tank's integrity. With that test in the bag, the test tank was lifted onto the launch mount. With the hydraulic rams already in place to simulate loading on the thrust puck, SN7.1 will test additional refinements in the construction of the vehicles. All new Starships are made from a variant of the 304 liters steel alloy, ahead of the expected switch to an under-development alloy in the long term. The test on SN7.1 is currently expected later in the week, involving the loading of cryos before being pushed through and above the predicted pressure ratings. It is hoped the vehicle will exceed a predetermined bar rating before finally succumbing to the pressure loads. If, and expectations should be set accordingly, SN8 suffers an issue and fails to land, SN9 will likely be at a stage of construction where it will be waiting in the wings, akin to how SN6 would have backed up SN5 had the latter suffered a failure during testing. Sections of SN9 were spotted in the last 2 weeks, with stacking now taking place inside the mid-bay next to SN8. This provided the unique first-time view of 4 starships in the same viewpoint. This incredible production cadence will allow for SpaceX to continue to push the prototypes through an ambitious test program where failures will be more useful for data gathering, as opposed to causing major scheduling issues. Although some elements of production are hidden behind the doors of the big tents, sections for SN10 and SN11 have already been spotted by Mary, at Boca Chica, during her documentary-level coverage for this site. This is in addition to numerous deliveries of thrust pucks and downcomers, specialist builds that will be installed into future Starships. With the near-term focus on SN8's flight test, preparations for the maiden flight of a Super Heavy prototype are continuing at the launch site and production area. The huge high bay is now at its final height with roof sections being added while workers add cladding to the side of the facility. This is where the first Super Heavy will be stacked, although such operations won't necessarily have to wait until the completion of construction on the high bay, given the first Starship stacking occurred while workers were still finishing the construction of the mid-bay. Over at the launch site, the construction of the orbital launch pad continues ahead of hosting the first prototype that is expected to hop with 2 Raptor engines. The expected high demand for Raptor engines is likely to be satisfied during the test program phase, with 3 test stands at McGregor enjoying the constant residence of the powerful Methalox engines. NSF member Gary Blair, who regularly passes the test facility, observed 1 Raptor on the vertical test stand, which used to be the tripod stand for Falcon 9 booster testing, and 2 Raptors on the horizontal test stand facility, as seen in his latest photos provided to NSFL2 McGregor. Notably, one of the bays is now occupied by the RAC engine that SpaceX recently tweeted ahead of its departure from Hawthorne. Its huge nozzle is supported by struts that are a recent new addition for this engine's test series. With the RAC now set for a static fire test at McGregor, there is increased optimism surrounding the likelihood SpaceX is laying the groundwork for orbital flight missions, with a full-stack Super Heavy/Starship, as early as next year.